ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste, dear friends. I am starting the third video on the self-inquiry of Bhagwan Sri Maharshi Ramana. I start with the question put by devotee. Even though the heart and the Brahmarandra alone are the loci fit for meditation, could one meditate, if necessary, on the six mystic centers Adhar Maharshi, the six mystic centers, etc., which are said to be loci of meditation, are but product of imagination. All these are meant for beginning in yoga. With reference to meditation on the sixth center, the Shiva yogins say, God, who is of the nature of the non-dual, plenary consciousness self, manifest, sustains and resolves us all. It is a great sin to spoil that reality by superimposing on it various names and forms such as Ganpati, Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Maheshwara and Sadasiva. And the Vedantins declare all those are but imaginations of the mind. Therefore, if one knows one's self, which is of the nature of consciousness, that knows everything, one knows everything. The great ones have also said, when that one is known as it is in itself, all that has not been known becomes known. If we who are endowed with various thoughts meditate on God, that is the self, we would get rid of the plurality of the thoughts by that one thought, and then even that one thought would vanish. This is what is meant by saying that knowing one's self is knowing God. This knowledge is released. Devotee, how is one to think of the self? Mercy, the self is self-luminous without darkness and light, and is the reality which is self-manifest. Therefore one should not think of it as this or that. The very thought of thinking will end in bondage. The purport of meditation on the self is to make the mind take the form of the self. In the middle of the heart cave, the pure Brahma is directly manifest as the self in the form I. Can there be greater ignorance than to think of it in manifold ways without knowing it as aforementioned? We shall meditate on that which existing in the form of self is the Atam Tattva, is effulgent, and which residing in all living things always says I, to seek for a God outside. Leaving the God residing in the cave of the heart is like throwing away priceless gem and searching for a trivial bead. Devotee, it was stated that Brahma is manifest as the self in the form I in the heart. To facilitate an understanding of this statement, can it be still further explained? Maharshi, is it not within the experience of all that during deep sleep, swoon, etc., there is no knowledge whatsoever, that is neither self-knowledge nor other knowledge? Afterwards, when there is experience of the form I have woken up from sleep or I have recovered from swoon, is that not a mode of specific knowledge that has arisen from the aforementioned distinctionless state? This specific knowledge is called Vijnana. This Vijnana becomes manifest only as pertaining to either the self or the non-self, and not by itself. When it pertains to the self, it is called true knowledge. Knowledge in the form that mental mode whose object is the self, or knowledge which has for its content the impartite self, and when it relates to the not self, it is called ignorance. The state of this Vijnana, when it pertains to the self and is manifest as of the form of the self, is said to be the I manifestation. This manifestation cannot take place as apart from the real, that is the self. It is this manifestation that serves as the mark for the direct experience of the real. Yet, this by itself cannot constitute the state of being the real. That, depending on which is this manifestation takes place, is the basic reality, which is also called prajna. The Vedantic text Prajanam Brahma teaches the same truth. Know this as the purport of the scriptures also. The self, which is self-luminous and the witness of everything, manifests itself as the residing in the Vijnana Kosa, seat of intellect. By the mental mode which is impartite, seizes this self as your goal and enjoy it as the self. Devotee, what is that which is called the inner worship or worship of the attributeless? Maharshi, in texts such as the Ribhu Gita, the worship of the attributeless has been elaborately explained as a separate discipline. Yet all disciplines such as sacrifice, charity, austerity, observance of vows, japa, yoga and puja are in effect modes of meditation of the form I am Brahma. So, in all the modes of disciplines, one should see to it that one does not stay away from the thought I am Brahma. This is the purport of the worship of attributeless. Devotee, what are the 8 limbs of knowledge, Jnana, Ashtanga? Maharshi, the 8 limbs are those which have been already mentioned, with Yama, Niyama, etc., but differently defined. Of these, Yama, 1. Yama. This is controlling the aggregate of sense organs, realizing the defects that are present in the world consisting of the body, etc. Niyama. This is maintaining a stream of mental modes that relate to the self there and rejecting the contrary modes. In other words, it means love and arises uninterruptedly for the self, supreme self. Asana, that with the help of which constant meditation on Brahma is made possible with ease in a asana. Pranayama, Rechaka exhalation, is removing the two unreal aspects of name and form of the objects constituting the world. Pranayama, Rejka explanation is removing the two unreal aspects of name and form from the objects constituting the world, the body, etc. Purka inhalation is grasping the three real aspects, existence, consciousness and bliss, which are constant in those objects, and Kumbhaka is retaining those aspects thus grasped. Pratyahara, this is preventing name and form which have been removed from entering the mind. Dharana, this is making the mind stay in the heart without staying outward and realizing that one is the self itself, which is existence, consciousness, bliss. Seventh, dhyana. This is meditation of the form I am only pure consciousness. That is, after leaving aside the body, which consists of 5 seats, one inquires who am I, and as a result of that, one stays as I, which shines as the self. Samadhi. When the I manifestation also ceases, there is subtle direct experience. This is samadhi. For the pranayam, etc., detailed here, the disciplines such as asana, etc., mentioned in connection with yoga are not necessary. The limbs of knowledge may be practiced in all places and at all times of yoga and knowledge. One may follow whichever is pleasing to one's or both according to circumstances. The great teachers say that forgetfulness is the root of all evil and is death for those who seek release. So one should rest the mind in one's self and should never forget the self. This is the aim. If the mind is controlled, all else can be controlled. The distinction between yoga with 8 limbs and knowledge with 8 limbs has been set forth elaborately in the sacred text. So only the substance of this teaching has been given here. Disciple, is it possible to practice at the same time the pranayama belonging to yoga and pranayama pertaining to knowledge? Maharshi, so long as the mind has not been made to rest in the heart either through absolute retention, keval kumbhaka, or through enquiry, rejka, purka, etc. are needed. Hence the pranayama of yoga is to be practiced during training and the other pranayama may be practiced always. Thus both may be practiced. It is enough if the yogic pranayama is practiced till skill is gained in absolute retention. Death or kala is the giving up of the earth of the contemplation of the self, which should never be given up even the least bit. Vivek Chudamani. Devotee, why should the path to release be differently taught? Will it not create confusion in the minds of aspirants? Maharshi, several paths are taught in the Vedas to suit the different grades of qualified aspirants. Yet, since release is but the restriction of mind, all efforts have for their aim the control of mind. Although the modes of meditation may appear to be different from one another, in the end, and all of them become one. There is no need to doubt this. One may adopt that path which suits the maturity of one's mind. The control of prana, which is yoga, and the control of mind, which is jnana. These are the two principal means for the destruction of mind. To some, the former may appear easy, and to others, the latter. Yet jnana is like subduing a turbulent bull by coaxing it with green grass, while yoga is like controlling through the use of force. Thus the wise ones say, of the three grades of qualified aspirant, the highest reach the goal by making the mind firm in the self through determining the nature of the real by Vedantic inquiry and by looking upon one's self and all things as of nature of the real. The mediocre by making the mind stay in the heart through kevala kumbhaka and meditating for a long time on the real, and the lowest grade by gaining that state in a gradual manner through breath control, etc. The mind should be made to rest in the heart till the destruction of the I thought, which is of the form of ignorance residing in the heart. This itself is jnana. This alone is dhyana also. The rest are a mere digression of words, digression of the text. Thus the scriptures proclaim. Therefore, if one gains the skill of retaining the mind in one's self through some means or other, one need not worry about other matters. The great teachers also have taught that the devotee is greater than the yogins, and that the means to release is devotion, which is of the nature of reflection on one's own self. Thus, it is the path of realizing Brahma that is variously called Dahara Vidya of Brahma Vidya, Atma Vidya, etc. What more can be said than this? One should understand the rest by inference. The scriptures teach in different modes. After analyzing all these modes, the great ones declare this to be shortest and the best. Devotee, by practicing the disciplines taught above, one may get rid of the obstacles that are in the mind, viz., ignorance, doubt, etc., and thereby attain quiescence of mind. Yet there is one last doubt after the mind has been resolved in the heart. There is only consciousness shining as the plenary reality. When thus the mind has assumed the form of the self, who is there to enquire? Such enquiry would result in self worship. It would be like the story of the shepherd searching for the sheep that was all the time on his shoulders, seeing everything as the real. According to the scriptures, I am Brahma, one only without a second. Of all yogins, only he who rests his unwavering mind and love in me is dear to me. Bhagavad Gita. Of the means to release, only bhakti, devotion, may be said to be the highest, for bhakti is constant reflection on one's own self. Vivek Chudamani. So, devotee is asking, by practicing the disciplines taught above, one may get rid of the obstacles that are in the mind, with ignorance, doubt, error, etc., and thereby attaining quiescence of mind. Yet there is one last doubt. After the mind has been resolved in the heart, there is only consciousness shining as the plenary reality. When thus the mind has assumed the form of the self, who is there to enquire? Such enquiry would result in self worship. It would be like the story of the shepherd searching for the sheep that was all the time on his shoulders. Maharshi, the Jiva itself is Shiva. Shiva himself is the Jiva. It is true that the Jiva is no other than Shiva. When the grain is hidden inside the husk, it is called paddy. When it is dehusked, it is called rice. Similarly, so long as one is bound by karma, one remains a Jiva. When the bond of ignorance is broken, one shines as Shiva, the deity. Thus declares a scriptural text. Accordingly, the Jiva, which is mind, is in reality the pure self. But forgetting this truth, it imagines itself to be an individual soul and gets bound in the shape of mind. So, its search for the self, which is itself, is like the search for the sheep by the shepherd. But still, the Jiva, which has forgotten itself, will not become the self through mere mediate knowledge. By the impediment caused by the residual impressions gathered in the previous births, the Jiva forgets again and again its identity with the self and gets deceived, identifying itself with the body, etc. Will a person become a high officer by merely looking at him? Is it not by steady effort in that direction that he could become a highly placed officer? Similarly, the Jiva, which is in bondage through mental identification with the body, etc., should put forth effort in the form of reflection on the self in a gradual and sustained manner, and when thus the mind gets destroyed, the Jiva would become the self. The reflection on the self, which is thus practiced constantly, will destroy the mind and therefore will destroy itself, like the stick that is used to kindle the cinders burning a corpse. It is this state that is called release. Devotee, if the Jiva is by nature identical with the self, what is that prevents the Jiva from realizing its true nature? Maharshi, it is forgetfulness of the Jiva, that is true nature. This is known as the power of wailing. Devotee, if it is true that the Jiva has forgotten itself, how does the I experience arise for all? Maharshi, the veil does not completely hide the Jiva. It only hides the self-nature of I and projects the I am the body notion, but it does not hide the self's existence, which is I and which is real and eternal. Devotee. What are the characteristics of the Jivan Mukta, the liberated in life, and Videha Mukta, that is liberated at death? Maharshi, I am not the body, I am Dharma, which is manifest as the self in me, who am the plenary reality. The world consisting of bodies, etc., are mere appearances, like the blue of the sky. He who has realized the truth thus is Jiva Mukta. Yet, so long as his mind has not been resolved, there may arise some misery for him because of relation to objects on account of prarabdha karma, which has begun to fructify and whose result is the present body. And as the movement of mind has not ceased, there will not be also the experience of bliss. The experience of self is possible only by the mind that has become subtle and unmoving as a result of prolonged meditation. He who is thus endowed with a mind that has become subtle and who has the experience of self is called the Jivan Mukta. It is the state of Jivan Mukti that is referred to as the attributeless Brahma and as the Turiya. When even the subtle mind gets resolved and experience of self ceases, and when one is immersed in the ocean of bliss and has become one with it without any differentiated existence, one is called a Videha Mukta. It is the state of Videha Mukta that is referred to as the transcendent attributeless Brahma and as the transcendent Turiya. This is the final goal. Because of the grades in misery and happiness, the released ones, the Jivan Muktas and Videha Muktas, may be spoken of as belonging to four categories: Brahmavid, Vara, Varyam, and Vrishta. But these distinctions are from the standpoint of the others who look at them. In reality, however, there are no distinctions in release gained through Jnana. Obeisance. May the feet of Ramana, the Master, who is the great Shiva himself and is also in human form, flourish forever. So, here ends the text of Self-Enquiry by Maharshi Ramana. So I will explain some easy way for the benefits of my dear sadhakas. Dear friends, our self, mind, ego, body and Brahma, how they are related. Mind and ego are rising from our Atma. Please understand. Thoughts arise from the Atma, and this continuity of thoughts makes the mind. Also, I is identified with the body, that is our ego. See, ego is a modification of mind. So, mind and ego both are arising from Atma. False I, that is I identifying with the body, is called, this is the I thought, and this is also known as ego. Atma and Brahma, there is no difference. Atma is Brahma, Brahma is Atma. As Brahma is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, same way our Atma is omnipotent, omniscient and omnipresent. So there is no difference between Atma and Paramatma. So we are not able to realize our Atma due to our mind and ego. The tendency of thoughts is going outward, that becomes the mind with negativity. If the thoughts are redirected back inward to the Atma, so this mind becomes pure and it merges with soul. Understand? When the mind is tending to go outward, that is, it mixes with the world and it veils our Atma. If the same mind is directed to go back to the soul, so if it enters the spiritual heart and merges with the soul, there is destruction of mind and there is the state of self-realization. So, just how this is to be achieved. Sit for meditation, then visualize and have positive affirmations that my mind and my ego are slowly and steadily going deeper, deeper, deeper and deeper inwardly towards the spiritual heart. Mind and ego are reaching the spiritual heart. So, finally, the mind and ego enter the spiritual heart and merge with the soul. When mind and ego both are destroyed, then we are in the state of self-realization. That means mind and ego are the main hurdle in the state of self-realization. So, people they say how to control the mind. My dear friends, mind is the product of Atma. Atma is omnipotent, sarvashaktiman, sarvajya, sarvashaktiman and sarvvyapaka. It has infinite power. How the things coming out of the infinity can be controlled. So, my dear friends, if someone says this is the method of controlling the mind, please just understand how mind which is produced by the omnipotent self, how it can be controlled. It cannot be controlled by finite methods. Infinity cannot be controlled by finite. Please understand. So, the simple way is sit in meditation and have positive affirmations like my mind and ego are slowly and steadily going inward and entering the spiritual heart and merging with the soul. My dear friends, after few days you will realize that you are gaining meditation, you are succeeding positively. Please, this is not that difficult as people say. Only thing, we are trying to control the mind, which is simply impossible, and that is not possible. So, dear friends, time to time I will explain these methods. So, here I end my video. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and comment, and please subscribe my channel so that more and more people may gain from these holy books and videos. Thank you, dear friends. God bless my dear friends.